Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Human Echoes recap for Z Nation Season 3, Episode 12. This one's called The Siege of Murphytown, and I'm just all kinds of excited about this episode, you guys. This is going places. This is blowing my mind with how exciting everything is right now. We start off the episode with Addie still on the trail of the man and Lucy, hunting down what seems to be a really interesting trail of destruction. She finds the car that they had been in at this gas station with dead Z's everywhere around it. And I think if I may be permitted to reconstruct this in my head, Lucy called a bunch of Z's to attack the man, and the man took him out. Like, big time took him out. I'm just loving envisioning this dynamic sort of in my head. I don't need to see it like in the show too much. We kind of got it at the end of the last episode they were in, where she was annoying him and he was like, oh, this is sort of pushing me to my breaking point. But it's amazing to think about this little girl. Now she's a teenager, but still, as the most formidable opponent that this guy has faced. And he's still, like, he can still handle it. He can still take on what she has to throw at him, but it's about an even match. Like, she's still being dragged along, but she has got some power. And he is really struggling. Addie takes off, finds the direction that they're going to be going, heads off the road, and we get into the meat of the episode, which is, we start off with Kaya on the radio with Citizen Z, and I thought that this must have been a reshoot thing. Like, that was the only thing that I could figure out for why any of Citizen Z's stuff happening here was that they needed to patch up some stuff, or like they realized after they didn't have him anymore that they needed some extra pickup work, and so they got him in a green screen, but they couldn't get him in the same room with Kaya, so they had him on the radio. Because Citizen Z's part in this episode feels very, like, chopped off. He's in the plane with Grandpa Kaya. I forget what Grandpa's name is. And they're flying somewhere. We don't know where exactly to start out with. And Kaya's doing the Citizen Z thing, right? She finds the survivors. She's trying to communicate with them. It's essentially female Citizen Z with Kaya's attitude. And that's fine. Like, I didn't mind that. It seemed to me like it was hacked together at the last second from footage that was shot in completely different locations. But they're trying to track down what Warren and Murphy and Operation Bite Mark are all doing. She finds Warren. She gets a facial recognition on Warren and sort of radios that information to Citizen Z, who's in the plane heading somewhere. We find out later it's to meet Warren and Murphy together. And we that's sort of our transition to go into what is Warren doing. And holy crap, what is Warren doing? What happened to this character between... She's broken now. Like, she's broke in so many ways. And I did not expect that. This is, yeah, it bugs me a little bit that the transition kind of felt super rapid, but in a sense, we're seeing this character stripped down to, like, nothing. Just the bare bones of what's left in her soul. She has no one left that she loved, right? As far as she knows, Hector's dead. Not Emilio, what's the guy's name that she had to kill, who's taken on a Scorpion's name? He's dead from last season. Vasquez. Thank you, Brain. Appreciate that. You're a little bit late, though. Hector and Vasquez are dead. Doc and Addie are gone. She's running around with Sun Mei, who Sun Mei's a good woman, but she doesn't have a connection with Warren. And so we've got this, like, Warren with nobody around to hold her back, nobody around to anchor her, and she's gone off the deep end. Like, she has been drilled down to nothing but the mission. That is the only part of her identity that she has left that she can grab onto. And so all of the rest of her humanity has essentially been stripped away. We're seeing, she has a line in this episode saying, well, these guys are basically like zombies. But in a sense, we're seeing all of these characters turn into some iteration of the zombie, right? And in Warren's case, it's that she is nothing more but this almost mindless impulse, not for brains, but to complete the mission. And for her, the mission means saving the human race, but what does that even mean anymore? Within this world that we have where Murphy is building everything up, what does Warren's mission mean? Not to mention the fact, in addition to the fact that she's lost all of her good people around her, except for Sunmay. But again, Sunmay, I think, doesn't have the assertiveness, doesn't know Warren, doesn't have the, feel like she has the rank to tell Warren what to do. She questions some of Warren's actions, but she's not willing to go far enough to say, hey, you need to stop this. You're doing wrong. Cut it out. She's on a mission as well, and she sort of understands where Warren's coming from, and so I think she can't quite put her foot down, and Warren is surrounded by these crazies from the Red Hand, who, while you can argue there is a kernel of justice in their motivations, they're clearly unhinged people. They are not okay. They are not good guys by any stretch of the imagination, and we're really, really coming down to the place in Z Nation where there aren't any good guys left, except maybe 10K. And he's been taken over by Murphy. And at the opening of the episode, 10K is going to Warren. He's going to try to bring her back. He's not able to because he's still sort of in that swimmy, fighting it kind of stage. Warren, at least that's what I'm taking it at. He's also outnumbered, but I think 10K, if he wasn't sort of at some fundamental level fighting off the control that Murphy had exerted on him, would have been able to take Warren back to Murphy, or at least not fail quite as spectacularly as he does. He sneaks up, thinks he's sneaking up on them. Z runs past him. He runs around a corner and just gets sucker punched by Warren or one of the guys from the Red Hand, and sort of wakes up all woozy. Warren, in addition to just knocking out this guy who used to be, somebody who she would have protected, and understandable to a point because he is coming after her, right? But she's lost any kind of humanity or decency toward this guy. She's yelling. She's completely uncaring about his feelings. Not feelings exactly, but Sunmay is, telling her, hey, don't inject him with this, other, we've got a whole list now of vaccines. Don't inject him with whatever extra vaccine it is, because he's already been injected with so much crap and has Murphy riding in his brain. She may not know about that, but we know about that. And it could overload him. It could completely mess up his system. And Warren just says, nah, he can handle it. And just completely drained of all empathy. Sticks 10K. It doesn't really help her much. She's, 10K just sort of gets all woozy because of the extra injection. It means that he's less of a threat. And then we see Murphy kind of swoop in and essentially save the day for 10K with his guys and present his side of the case, which is a pretty convincing side of the case, I have to admit. Warren, I cannot be on board with Warren anymore. I can't. There's a part of me that, having been through this show, having seen what Murphy has been and what Warren has been, Warren was definitely the better person for a long time in the show. But we now come to this interesting crossroads where the ends intersect the means. And so let's think about this in terms of motivation. What Warren is trying to accomplish is to get a vaccine for the zombie virus to save the human race, whatever is left of the human race. But what she's doing is completely inhuman. She's forgetting about all of the people that she loved. She's willing to kill and, maim and disregard all of everybody that she's come to love through this time, that anybody who's left. I mean, 10K's kind of been taken away from her, but you got to think if Doc or Addie were there, they would, especially Doc, but Addie also would be sort of like, cool it down. This is not who we are. And Warren has lost sight of who she is. So while her goal may be noble, her means are completely barbaric. On the other hand, we have Murphy, who is very well, I think he's convinced himself that he has noble goals, but let's strip it down to sort of the super ego, or the ego, or whatever it is, like that very basic drive of Murphy. Murphy's in it for himself. All right. We know that he's very much a self-interested person. He needs the brains, as Warren points out later. We'll get into that a little bit more. He's supplying himself with what he needs, but the way he's doing it is by rebuilding society. Like, he's giving actual people hope by turning these people into blends. He's creating hope, right? Like, almost none of these people he's forced to do, except for 10K, who he, feels like that he needs from a tactical standpoint. Nobody has to be a blend anymore. And I think he's still willing to forcibly turn people into blends. Like, later on in the episode, he does try to get Roberta turned into a blend, but he's more interested in the people who are willingly coming to him. And Roberta sort of tries to marginalize these people. It's like, well, those people are no better than zombies. Like, they've given up their soul to Murphy. They wanted safety. And I was on the Reddit forum, the post for the live chat of the show, and somebody did that Thomas Jefferson quote, or I don't know if it's Thomas Jefferson, basically the idea of trading off safety for freedom. And if you trade your safety for your freedom, you don't deserve either. But that's really a much harder argument to make. If you want to come from a standpoint of pure principle, then that is, you can still make that argument from if you even put an ounce of pragmatism into there, if you let even the smallest sliver of, but yeah, my family might get killed and you can have your principles, I want my kids to live, then you gotta side with Murphy, because Murphy is building a better world. It's under him. It's arguably under his control, but all of these people are happy to a degree. And we're really coming into sort of a Brave New World situation where, and this might be an oversimplification of the story. I have not read it yet, but I've read about it. And, the Brave New World is a story about how that you have a society where people can be happy and have, things, but sort of be under control, be on drugs essentially, or you can go off and have your freedom, but be just miserable. And which one would you choose? It's real great to say freedom and yay, freedom, but I don't want to be miserable. That seems like kind of a bad deal. And so we're in that kind of situation here where, Warren is the sort of the survival side of that, and Murphy is the side that says, listen, we're not taking away everything from you. You still get these people still have their identities and, some semblance of who they were. They still have their families. They still enjoy things. They still have their talents and the engineer guy who comes up later in the episode, and I'm kind of getting away from specific plot points here, but I think it's more important in this episode to unpack the ideas of what is happening. The engineer is, he's doing what he loves to do. He's doing what he's good at doing. Murphy has given him back a purpose. If this guy was out in the apocalypse, he would, he's survived this long, so he's probably, he'd probably make it, but he would just be scrabbling at the dirt, fighting off zombies for the rest of his life. And here Murphy has said, hey, you have a talent. We can use that talent. Put that to use. you have value as a human beyond just surviving as a blend, but humanish, I mean, as a person beyond just what, beyond scraping by to the next day. Murphy gave him that to the point where we see, Roberta goes and puts zombies into the turbines of the power plants as part of her plan to take down Murphy. And I gotta say, when I saw that, I felt a little bit heartbroken. I felt like, man, this stuff Murphy's built up, now it's gone. Like, I mean, it's not maybe gone, but it's been damaged. And Murphy sends out the engineer. He says, hey, go, we need you to go fix it. He sends 10K with him to help him out. And they get pinned down by the Red Hand. And the engineer, and this might be part of being a blend, but I like to think that at least some of it is from a legitimate place of, this is a better life. Like, he legitimately believes in Murphy, so much so that he thinks he can convince the Red Hand. He walks out into the gunfire and says, no, guys, you don't understand. I'm going to fix it. Like, Mr. Murphy wants me to fix it. And it plays also into the last words of the woman that Roberta kills as she's infiltrating Murphytown, right? When she's trying to go after Murphy, and that woman, one of the first women that Murphy saves, right? She has the bite mark on her cheek. She's got, she's OG blend, and she comes up to Roberta and is not threatening to her, just says, hey, she might be pointing a gun at her. You know what? I feel like I might be misremembering that, but in my mind, it's like Roberta essentially kills her in cold blood and kills someone who's not, not like trying to kill her. There was so many times in this episode where Murphy could have had Roberta killed and he doesn't. And I don't think it's just plot contrivance by the writers because we got to keep Roberta alive. I think legitimately Murphy doesn't want to murder people. He's not so much into that. He will. I think he absolutely will when the situation arises, but he would like to resolve these situations as non-violently as possible. And when Roberta stabs that woman in the chest and she says, Mr. Murphy loves you, and when, the engineer gets gunned down as he's trying to convince these people that, hey, this is a good thing that we're doing, it's hard not to believe that there's some part of that is them, right? That, I mean, they willingly gave up themselves to Murphy's command. And while he might be controlling them, they also, they think there's a legitimate thing to say for Murphy's doing good for these people. He's legitimately building a better life for them. You can understand why they would love him, even beyond the mind control and the blend stuff. And Roberta wants to take that away. She doesn't care about any of that. She doesn't care about any of these people. She's convinced herself that none of them matter. Everything comes to a head with the attack. It's sort of fought to a stalemate. Murphy eventually wins, but it feels like kind of a hollow victory because we see that woman, being dragged back by the tow cable. I assume that's like hooked into her back somehow, which is just messed up. And again, Roberta is aligning herself with these people that are willing to do such vicious things for, she's pulling over into that side of, well, we're doing good. We're ultimately trying to do the right thing. So it doesn't matter who dies, losing her humanity. The battle itself, it's not really consequential here. They fight back and forth and big deal. And then, Citizen Z lands. And again, I want to go back to this. I think that we're dealing with a green screen situation. All right. There was a couple of shots where they had similar looking actors in the frame together, but it was very, very brief. And I feel like what they did was they had DJ Koalas on a green screen. They got somebody with Warren's hair when he goes to hug her, and then this reverse shot, they had like a side profile of somebody with a big nose for about half a second. I didn't freeze frame. Maybe he legitimately was on set with them, but it really, really looked like they were painting him in from somewhere else, and it felt kind of anticlimactic. Like, I've been the idea of Citizen Z meeting up with the main group has been something I've been jazzed about basically since season 1. And now it happens, and it feels like just a plot contrivance. Not even a plot contrivance, just sort of a necessity of production that he couldn't be in the same room with anybody. So they're like, well, we'll put him in a plane, and he flies down there. And especially more so because he immediately leaves, which it's a fine reason to leave. He gets the message from Kaya that she's pregnant and she's going to have his baby, and that's all fine. By the way, that's not going to happen. Like, I will be super surprised if we end up with a baby on Z Nation that makes it either Kaya's going to die or the baby's going to die or something's going to happen. But, he gets called back and sort of ends his plot. But he does give the information to Warren and Murphy that, hey, Lucy is headed for, this exact coordinates. The man has her. The man's probably taking her to Zona. And we get this weird truce between Murphy where, and this is an interesting turn of events because we have now these two people with diametrically opposed goals, and also sort of the two halves. Roberta and Murphy now are sort of what the apocalypse needs, but together. Like, the apocalypse needs somebody with Roberta's selflessness and her drive, but they need Murphy's hope. Roberta doesn't really have that. Even if she gets the vaccine made, there's no guarantee that that's gonna work. And so I think putting these two together is a really fascinating turn of events and is gonna lead to some great stuff going forward. And Murphy essentially says to Roberta, listen, I need you. I need that iron spine that you have, that completely unwillingness to deviate from the mission. I need that. I need to use that. And Roberta says, okay, but I need something from you. We assume, I'm assuming that she's, asking him to give up, his freedom for a little bit for Zona so they can make the cure. Although that doesn't get hashed out specifically in the episode. I think that's a pretty reasonable assumption though. Also maybe asking for 10K's freedom, although I don't know if she cares that much anymore. That kind of worries me. Although speaking of 10K, you guys, I've been a naysayer of this theory, although I didn't hate it. I just thought it was kind of silly. But y'all were right. Red and 5K show back up right when 10K's about to go down, and it was great. Just from it's almost like another plot contrivance. Like, oh, here they are, great. But it did feel like just as a fan service moment for all of y'all that wanted them to come back, and I know there was a lot of you. When that happened, I was cheering for you. I said yes, and I was cheering because I know the guys over at the AfterBuzz TV Z Nation recap have been asking for this. I know that some of y'all in the chat have been talking about in the comments and stuff like, I think 5K and 10 and Red are still alive. I'm glad for you. I'm very happy that they're still around. And I think that this is exciting because it means, here's what it means. It means there's a third option. Right? It means that there's another group. We don't necessarily have to side, at least, maybe I'm misunderstanding where this is going. But right now, if 10K goes with Red and 5K, now we have somebody who we can cheer for. All right. Now we have somebody we can legitimately say, these aren't bad people, which is something that I would like to see in this show. As much as, as much as I'm excited for the dynamic between Murphy and Roberta, we need some people that are just, that we can say are human and good at their core. And I don't know that we can 100% say that about Murphy or Roberta now, but we can say that about Red and 5K and 10K. Please let them go off and do their own thing now. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but in my mind, we need a third option. We need to be on Team 10K and Red and 5K and not, like, we need to find the middle ground here, and I think that that's what 10K is going to represent with Red and 5K. It was super adorable that he still thinks that she's a dream. And Sunmate has no time for it. She's like, oh, whatever. We're here for a reason, okay? Yeah, sure. She's a hallucination. Hi. 10K gets his kiss. Whoa, I guess you are real. That's all great stuff. And so we get to, wrapping things up with Addie still chasing down the man, and Lucy. Now Warren and Murphy are gonna probably head out to find the man and Lucy. Murphy doesn't take a bunch of his blends with him, which I thought was interesting. He leaves them to make their own life, right? And hopefully they have some vaccine left that they can continue making, these blends and helping people. I say hopefully, maybe that's not something you want, but I'm excited for the blends to continue growing as their own community. And especially now that Murphy's going to be gone, they're going to have some autonomy. I don't think he's going to be like mind controlling them much long distance. And so we've got this other community that's building up some kind of hope if they can ever get the turbines back online. Roberta, why'd you got to take the turbines down? To cut the wire or something? Dang it. So frustrating. And then you kill the engine. Whatever. That's it. That's all I have for today. This one was a real heartbreaker for me, in a good way, in a really good way, to see Roberta go where she goes and to fully make that transition to, oh, I'm on board with Murphy now. I'm legit on board with Murphy now. Huh. That was an amazing experience. There are so many shows and movies that talk about, oh, there's these two sides and we're going to try to make them both be right. And there's always a side that feels like it comes out as being the right side. And Z Nation has executed that promise beautifully, where these, I was going to say both sides are in a way wrong, but you really I've gone from cheering from Roberta to cheering a little bit more for Murphy. I'm on his side more than I'm on her side. And that's a powerful place to be in a show like this. And I love it to death. I'm looking forward to all these characters getting back together. We've got 2 more episodes. Next one's called Duel. We're going to get more of Lucy. And then the last one, I looked up the name, and it's called Everybody Dies in the End, or something like that, which does not bode well. I think we're going to see some people die this season. I think Doc is maybe on the chopping block. They've been giving him a lot of solo episodes, and I think that they're kind of building him up to be cut, which really, really sucks, and possibly some other people too. We'll have to wait and see. It's a good season so far. I can't wait to see where it goes. Leave a comment if you have any other thoughts. I'd love to hear from you guys. I try to respond when I can, and I'll see you guys next week with another episode of the Z Nation Recap.